Hey there, Nathan. We'll see if anybody shows up, but this might be another quick meeting this week.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I'm literally back in the office about an hour ago, so from about a week off. So
Well, good news is you didn't miss anything last week. We all showed up. Everybody shrugged and said no, they hadn't had time to do anything, and we all ran off. So I get the feeling it's going to happen that way this week as well. And I probably don't have time. Maybe I do to knock something out for next week, but the week after, I should have some time to do something. So maybe Halloween will be another short one, but then after that, hopefully we'll start picking up a pace, at least on my end.
yeah, I'm well. I think I've said this the last few times, but I'm hoping this week is that I get some free cycles to do some work on some stuff here. So
Nice. Welcome, Victor.
Hey, Brendan.
I get the feeling, judging by the comments so far and the markdown and the lack of Slack messages, that this will probably be another quick meeting. Say, I don't know if this is a sign that we should start starting all meetings 5 minutes late, or if we just need to start kicking the meetings off earlier to make you jump in sooner. How you doing this week?
Not bad. I actually have a calendar setting that schedules all my meetings 5 minutes later. So habit sometimes. It's bad.
We never start on time anyway, so it only makes sense.
Besides, I didn't have much, so I'm just hoping others continue.
So far, I think everybody hadn't had time to do anything this past week, so we're just going to do a quick check-in and then probably call it early this week. I think both Nathan and I are hoping to have time by next week, and I will definitely have time by the week after that. Yes, we've got all three of us that had at least committed at some point to doing some stuff on this. Sajay, any updates from the Aura side of this?
Yeah, I did uh attend one of the calls. Sylvia, who's one of the maintainers on the library, she agreed to kind of like write this up. So I think just maybe I'll check in again this week.
Yeah, no rush or panic. I think we're all doing the same, juggling dozen different things right now, so completely understand.
Yeah, but your sample for Moby is really helpful. So I think that'll speed things up.
Great. And I'm just going to see if I can do that for Reg client. I know Nathan is looking at that on the Containerd side. So between the three of us, hopefully we get some more progress here. Not this week, but next week or the week after. Anything else we want to talk about today? It's light crowd. We're past 5 after. Either kick this thing off or call it early, one way or the other. I know that's always your favorite question, Sajay, is do we want to end the meeting early, right?
Not really. Just want to get, I think we still kind of trying to figure out what we want to do once we get these PRs, right?
My own hope is that we take the ideas of what different people are doing, take whatever we see in some of the HTTP specs. So that's another thing I'd like to spend some more time digging into is some of the upstream specs, the RFCs and whatnot that we've got out there, and cobble something together that makes it so the registries can support the existing clients while being standard and generic enough so that clients don't have to re-implement too much of this very registry specific code and can just be a little bit more generic if possible.
Makes sense.
I get the feeling the bigger challenge when I think of all the different scenarios, the biggest challenge I can think of is when you start doing reusing a token that you got from working with one repository and try to use on a different one. I think that's going to be the biggest stumbling block that we're going to have to work through at some point. So if folks have thoughts on that, if you want to noodle on that for a while and come to good conclusions there, that's going to be the biggest challenge because today I think the way registries do it is they give you a token that has no acknowledgement that you even tried to talk to a repo that you don't have access to. And so registries don't know that they have asked you to try to get that permission to tell you you need to go get that permission versus tell you you're denied. They just don't have the knowledge with what they've done.
Now that Mike has joined, it actually reminded me about the 307 issue. So we got to document that also. Like when you get redirects, do you pass the token or you kind of strip the token off? What do we do with that?
Today? yeah, we passed the token today. Same thing on the one Brandon was talking about. We handle this on the client side, right? With common code, we always, for example, try TLS first and then go to, HTTP if it makes sense, if you're local and you're on requesting 80, right?
Yeah, but when we go to the 307 location header, we don't pass on the original authentication token, the authorization token, right? We should strip that off because if I remember correctly, the certain blob implementations will actually fail if you pass the wrong authorization header because the SAS token is in the URL itself. I think that's what Docker does, or
don't remember him. Hey, be nice. I'm catching up.
It's in a header, right?
So they have to strip out the header when you do the location follow. So 307 comes back with the location header, right? And then you got to take that and then you got to raw follow it and not pass on the original authentication token because they cross domains sometimes.
Does the 307, the URL they send you to, include enough details, maybe some kind of token in that URL?
Yes.
Okay.
So the reason why I kind of joined the working group was because the issue was on the distribution spec was, is 307 accepted? And if 307 is accepted, then how do we follow it? Do we actually strip the token or do we put it in there? And then second one was from a security standpoint, how many times do you follow it? That was the other thing that Mike was asking. And I think Containerd does it like 5 or 10 times or something like that.
I see Ram asking in the chat, should that restart a new auth session at that point? Like the site you get redirected to could potentially get back and say you need to authenticate again.
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I think clients do it in a particular way where the URL has the authorization in it, so that they can go back and they don't have to again re-authenticate. Otherwise, you end up with a challenge back and forth, right?
Yeah. I could also say that if I was looking at that in the 307, if I received a challenge from a site that I got redirected to, I feel like it's a bad response to send your password credentials to that third-party server at that
Right,
point.
right. So we need to remove it is kind of what, because the problem is 307 can be cross-domain and then you don't know where you're sending it to.
Hey, if you had specific credentials for that remote server, that would be one thing, but you shouldn't send credentials for server A to server B.
I'm worried about how are we going to configure that credential for that specific server now. Possible, but there's no way today to configure another. Um, anyway, that's the other point that I don't know whether we've documented on the Mobi side of what happens when we get the 307.
All right. Yeah, kind of agree. We need to try to get a lot of that documented. Anything else people want to discuss today? Otherwise, Mike just gets to take an early into the meeting, catch up on all the other stuff.
The best kind.
Yeah, it looks like I need to evaluate our 307 processing so that I can be ready for the next discussion. Signo didn't have any agenda items today, so
Nice.
I feel like the redirect is handled in the Golang client binary, isn't it? In the
Yeah.
client itself. And so you might not see any of that code inside of your own implementation. It's just all going to be handled by Go at that point.
Right.
yeah, we've got some code that allows redirection. I remember seeing it. I just got to go rediscover it. I think the last time we talked about it, subject.
On the distribution side, you might need code to send a redirect.
Right.
Interesting.
Because that's, you're in the server side at that point. So the server has to tell you you're doing a redirect. But on the client side, I think we don't even see it. It's just the client receives it. The Go library knows how to handle that automatically. And unless you explicitly override it, it's going to follow it. Was that a thumbs up or a wait a minute because you're still looking at code there?
No, it's vague memory. I haven't got to the code, to the line of code where we actually set the number of times that we allow the redirect to occur. How deep the proxy can become. No, I guess I'll find it. Resolver, client check. Oop, we're getting close. Stopped after 10. Yep, found it. We allow 10 check redirects.
Is that container D, or were you looking at distribution?
Yeah, I'm looking in the Docker remotes for Resolver.
Got it.
Just our common code. After we do the auth, we check redirect. I can set up a func to stop the redirects, so it is possible. We've got enough code exposed here. HTTP status with fields, blah blah blah. Client do. I could pop you a link to the code block if you're interested. Over to Zoom. Chat. Boom. Oh. You can see my code is a little out of date. Scroll down to 554 for the do.
The 10 consecutive request is the same thing in the Go library. The default policy. So
one has to wonder which came first.
Yeah, so that is the client check redirect function. It says in there, if check redirect is nil, which that's going to be the default on any new client that you create, then the default policy is to stop after 10 consecutive requests. So what was the line number you were saying for this one?
Oh, no, I sent you the file, the resolver, and I selected the wrong line number. I was looking for 554.
554.
543 because my code's out of date. Somebody must have been in here recently. Blame.
Yeah, I wonder. So you define that function. If I follow the Go implementation of this, I wonder if I find very similar code. And in that case, I'll be curious what happened there to need something a little different.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, if it's a clone, then you almost always got to set it to go refresh when
it's hard coded to 10 in this one, isn't it?
It is.
Good to know.
That the last time we talked, I had a vague memory of that line. It's like, oh man, what's going on? Oh shoot.
Default check redirect. Let me find that code. And yeah, their implementation is a little bit simpler. Drop this link over in the chat. But that's the original, or the upstream Go check redirect, which has another length function if it's greater than 10. Stopped after 10 redirects. So it looks like you've got an if error authorized that you add into there. That's the big difference. So that second if statement in yours is what you added.
Now,
the fact that the string is so similar makes me question what Mike said. Which came first? We don't know.
You have to go into blame, and it probably walks all the way back to to Docker.
I mean, years ago. Everything seems too similar, right? Like the length, the text. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
it's good. It's
someone
good
copied
bad,
something.
Right?
Yeah, someone copy this between each other. I wouldn't be surprised if Docker copied it just because they need to add that second if statement. So they need to extend it.
Yeah, because that's where the authorization bit comes in, right?
Yep. The code doesn't lie.
Now, what does the r.authorize function do? Is it adding authorization headers into it? Because that would be concerning if it is.
Okay, go to implementation. Let's see what we got. No implementation found. Go to definition. Dang it. Why is my BSC? Who wrote this BSC? I'm not following the definitions for some reason.
It is line 511.
Yeah.
Same
Local,
file.
that's why.
Same file. Line
Strange,
511.
find it. Okay.
If the authorizer is not nil, then it runs that authorize function. I think that is adding in the authorization header.
Yeah.
So that's something we probably want to discuss is should that ever be done?
Get auth handler. Yep. Yeah, I found the authorization funk.
It's keyed off the host again, right?
Remote Docker.
Most likely it's looking at that request and the request has a host. So yeah.
Yep. And it's fetching the refresh token.
Yeah, so that's something that I would want to look at. I know that I've seen in some other code before I was looking at things.
So basically, you can redirect to any host that's already configured and check the auth handlers. But if it was a redirect to a non-host config, then it would fail. I guess that's a pro, right? It's not allowing redirect to just any host. That's nice.
So if it's
a host,
yeah,
the host in there, is that the original request host or is that the redirected host? That might very well be the original host. So
request, I'm checking.
So if you're going to host A, it sends you to host B, you're going to look at your credential that you would normally log into host A with and send that to B, which I think that's what Sajay is worried about for good reason.
No, I think it strips it off. I'm not sure how, because
I'm worried he's adding it in.
Okay, this is exactly why it's kind of confusing, right? Because certain implementations, the target cannot accept a wrong key. Like if you pass in an authorization header that doesn't understand, it won't know. Because I remember with Azure blobs, they actually fail if you pass in a wrong host key because the registry authenticates with one and the blob authenticates with a different one. So I'm not sure exactly how the host resolves here.
It's passed in, but he is going to reauthorize against that host if there's a config for it.
Yeah. Right. And if it's a new host, the question is, what is the host value? Is it the redirected host or?
It's whatever was returned back in the first auth that was redirected.
That's what I'm thinking.
It is. I just checked it. Yeah. It's easier for me to go back and forth because I get the clone. But yeah. So you can redirect 10 times, but it has to be to a host domain that we already have configured, not to something new.
So Ram, question for you. In Zot, what is the situation if you have something like a CDN or if you have another redirection? The Zot endpoints serve both the content and the manifest, the layers and the manifest without a 307.
A Zot model is a single endpoint model, right? It is
okay.
So it serves both at the same instance.
My coffee's empty. I need a Coke.
Okay, sorry, I got everybody into dig into this one, but
We didn't have anything else to do. We were going to end the meeting early if you didn't give us something to look at.
now I'm hoping 307 gets documented. So I was kind of like, that's a valid status code, but it's not something that we tell clients can do. And some clients just like, why did you send me to a different place? It's like,
Well, it looks like in this case, because we have default hosts or, Docker IO usually, they're probably just normally going to redirect around from one Docker hub to another Docker hub, right? UK
the,
to US.
the CDN is different, is what I remember. The URLs
Yeah.
of the CDNs are different. So that
They're-
goes Cloudflare, some store bucket or something like that, which is not docker.io. And the
Right.
interesting thing is Docker resolves to index or registry -1, right? Or something like that. There are multiple.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was going to say it's not what you think, but yeah. It is. It's URL that
Hub has exceptions for all this stuff, but yeah, the redirect is not to one of the Docker Hub registries, like Sajay is saying. It's going to go to an S3 CDN or a CDN on front of S3 that's then going to some kind of Amazon link or whatever.
Okay, and that they would have to have a special config in containerd to make that work or Docker.
No,
That's what I'm hoping. I want to test that to verify.
The 307 actually has a times, like I think there is a token or auth something inside the URL. It's not a full jot. It's something else that they know.
Yeah. I looked for 307, couldn't find it, but the redirect I did find. So client redirect. What's the error code?
Hey, Ram has his hand up. Yeah, Ram, go ahead.
I mean, I personally would actually like to see a lot of redirects. It just means that not everything is in one place, and you get different things from different places, and that also means that we are doing a good job with the adoption of standards. So more 307s is actually good from an OCA standpoint.
Yes, I am fighting for getting 307 into the spec. It's exactly what I'm doing.
I am fighting for getting the spec just to say that it uses HTTP RFCs and list 307 and other stuff as upstream RFCs we follow.
Oh, I see how it works. We're passing the check redirect func into the HTTP request. Got it.
Yeah, it's part of the client. Is it the request or the client?
Built in. Yeah, built in. Yeah. And that's an override for HTTP. Yeah, got it.
The thing I worry about though with that code, Mike, and I need to go do some checking, is if you have the auth for server A, you send that and it redirects you to server B.
Yeah.
Is the host field in there saying server A or server B in that code? I feel like that code might be keeping track that it was originally talking to server A. And so when it does that auth request, it might be,
yeah,
it might be sending your auth from server A to server B. And that's something I don't think we want to do. But it may only be doing that if server B asks for auth. So that might be kind of like this halfway point that makes Sajay a little happy, because you're not sending auth without a request.
And it also redoes the auth, but yeah, I believe unless that host has a separate, you think we're passing the same auth each time?
I think
it'll be interesting to check. Yeah, I haven't read through this code deep enough to remember.
I would look at where you're getting the host value from. If you're getting the host value from the actual HTTP request, or if it's some kind of overall session that you're keeping track of, and you're remembering the original host.
It would be simple enough to test too.
Yeah. In my own code, I just check to see if the header is in there for doing the request response when I get some kind of unauthorized response back. But that unauthorized response is going to come back from after the redirect happens. So it's not a redirect response that I'll be seeing that in. It would be a 307, and then it'll fall back to what's the unauthorized code here? Mouse over real quick, see 401. So it will go 307, server B will come back with a 401, and then I would go back through my flow, but I have to go look, see what happened there. Because otherwise, if the Go client is doing it for me, I just follow the redirect the Go client does. And I would need to check to see if they strip headers and things like that out. I'm hoping they do.
Interesting.
The other one to think about as we talk about,
we're passing the auth over context. So
you're passing it through the context.
It's being passed through the context. We do have a different auth handler per host. So we have an array of host handlers, right? But yeah, no, that context, that auth is coming through context. So you're not going to see it being passed, directly as a parameter, which is going to be a little confusing. But
in that case, I'm guessing you set that context at the beginning of the request.
Yep.
To server A.
You got it. With the wait timeout, blah, blah, right? Yep.
Yeah. Something to look at.
Yeah.
The other one that I've been meaning to dig deeper into is the mirror code. When your client is explicitly configured to work with a mirror, I feel like some of the older Docker code will send your credential for host A to mirror A. And they only work with Docker Hub. So they're going to send your Docker Hub credential to whatever machine you specify as a mirror for Docker Hub. Which that probably isn't what people expect.
I mean, if you're going to use a mirror, you have to configure it directly.
You do, but your credential in the mirror should not be your Docker Hub credential. It should be a credential on the mirror. And the way the code is written is, if you try to pull from Docker Hub and the client is configured to have a mirror set up in there, the Docker code sends your Docker Hub credential to the mirror. Which, that's really bad. But at the same time, it made some really interesting possibilities for me because I can make a pull-through cache that any user could use, and it would just pass their credential all the way through to Docker Hub at that point. So,
I mean, from that perspective, we've got all those secrets. Every password that's set in the key ring gets passed until we get success. So yeah, yeah.
But me as a mirror,
that's one of the things I was hoping we could get solved here.
Me as a mirror should not have every password that any one of your users has to talk to Docker Hub. They should be logging into the mirror with their own credential.
You have an identity token, not, yeah.
Yep.
Yep. That should be the way. If Kubernetes wants to own the evaluation and all those secrets, fine. Give us an identity token and we'll pass or fail one time, please.
I did see that your secret image stuff is getting merged over there.
The kept got merged. I don't think I've seen the code. I know it's getting closer, the code. Yeah.
So
unfortunately, that doesn't solve the problem we're talking about. Right?
No, but it's nice to see progress being made on some of these things. That does mean that from the client side, they're going to try to re-authenticate.
It does expire the authorization.
Okay.
Just to let you know. So you can start using. What's that, Sajay?
This is the image secret cap, right?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, that's finally been for the second time it got accepted.
You've been working on this for a long time.
This time. But we're making sure that, just let you know, that you can use the pull if not present, not pull always anymore. And it will make sure that, everybody that tries to use it, with the right signatures does get off, they don't have to get reauthorized except for after a couple hours goes by, then everybody has to be reauthorized.
Nice.
Yay. So it'll be fat. You can use pull if not present is basically what it means in a multi-tenant scenario. That's what we were targeting.
Does that keep track if you're able to?
I don't think we needed to. I think that was a mistake, adding persistence, because it's only going to be for a couple hours. You have to reboot kubelet within that couple of hours to remember, oh yeah, this guy already asked for it. So we've got that in there too. But you can configure, you'll be able to configure that, how long that persistence lasts. To be days or weeks, if you will, but by default, no, just a couple hours.
Sorry, go ahead, Panda, you were asking.
Does that keep track of public images? So if you pull and you have a credential, but you don't use it to pull the image, does it know that? Or is it just assume if you give it a credential?
It doesn't know what the credential was. We shot. Right. Basically, I take your pod spec and I make sure that the secrets that you had in that pod spec, the one that worked on the pull, I make sure that the one that worked on the pull is stored in a data structure along with a few other things, right?
Does it first attempt to do a pull anonymous, or does it always use your secret if you give it one?
That's the way. Yes, today a new pod would always anonymous first. That's the way it's always been. Yeah. Right. Even with pull always, it's always been anonymous first.
And so if it does anonymous first and it gets the image, does it just assume that everybody has access to it at that point? Doesn't have to do the authentication for each user. Okay. That's good.
For a couple hours. Again, if you're doing if not present, even with anonymous, I didn't want that to be like forever. Right. I wanted it just in case somebody ever wanted to change, right, the passwords on their private repo, that reflected over time in which pods are able to run on that image that was pulled. Right.
How does that work?
I'm trying to lock it down. Lock it down. But only for, of course, it's only for the manifest check, right?
How does it work with the Docker Hub throttling? Because they have the anonymous full throttle, right? Like,
can't help you there.
Although
it does help, it helps slightly, right? If you were going to run 20 pods on the same node, it's going to help there because this guy already pulled it.
Yeah.
This pod, right? Or another pod with the same secret in it, right? That was successful, already pulled it. So we're good. And don't have to recheck the manifest. So it will be present and we will not pull again. Unless you said : latest.
That is a good question, Sajay. If you're always going to do an anonymous request first, you'll just use up your anonymous rate limit at that point.
Yeah. I don't know whether Docker Hub returns something back that'll enable you to do authorized pull. That's what I'm thinking.
They're going to return back a rate limit exceeded, so you would need to know to fall back to a login at that point. Yeah, I don't know if that's normal.
Yeah, nobody does. I mean,
it's a mess. It's a mess.
Okay. All right.
This will help. This code actually will help in that case, because you don't have to say pull always. Pull always was the bulk of the manifest checks, right? Just getting rid of that, in that 2-hour window, you're going to get your count back, right? So yay, I can run test cases now, and it's not going to recheck the same auth every time. This is much better.
As long as it's just doing a head request, you're not going to use up your rate limit. So that can be faster. And I'm assuming you can still do a head request with authentication, so that would still work as well.
We pull the manifest. On every, if not present, all the manifests are pulled.
Oh.
Because, if you said pull, damn it, I'm going to check all the it's not an auth check. We do not have an auth check only API. So when you pull the image, we do it for you. We check the manifest. And if the manifest hasn't changed and we've still got those layers, all the SHAs, then we're good to go. We're done.
You could simplify that to a head request, though.
I know. We need a new API. I'm not disagreeing with you. maybe we can make that happen in this, right? In this work group.
Well, the head request isn't even off. That's just the head request just lets you compare a digest. And so you can see the digest didn't change. There's no reason you even pull the manifest.
Yep. I know.
There's more code in there that I don't know.
But I know you're right. We could optimize that better. And maybe Derek already has. I need to go check the code. I know the last time I checked it, nope, we pull all the manifests.
Wait.
Not just the top of the Merkle tree. Hint.
I get dinged every time I say I'm trying to make this stuff efficient.
I get hammered. Discussion.
Every time I try to make this efficient, you can't do that.
My gut says, and you know me on this one, on this Merkle issue, I think we do need, in some scenarios, to allow for these artifacts, right, to tweak the platform index every time, right? Because I don't want somebody to push another subject refers artifact on my image. It's my image, damn it. I want my platform index, right, to change when you add an artifact. I want it to be a Merkle because I'm a bank, and I don't want to see additional referring artifacts on my image, my data image, for Christ's sake. So I don't want.
So why put that? I'll turn this back around on the
to keep it a Merkle. To keep it a Merkle.
You gave me a Merkle. You gave me something in there that said, here's the digest. It represents all this stuff. Why not use signing solutions where you're not giving me a Merkle, you're giving me something that is signed by an identity that I know I can trust. The reason I asked that is because anybody can mess around with the Merkle and just come up with a new digest that looks like it's got all the same content that you would have had.
I'm with you. You just reinvented the tag, the tag solution that the Docker guys do.
I mean, I can build my own index that has my own entries in there that look just like they came from upstream. It's got a different digest, but who's to say my digest is wrong, yours is right, without some kind of signing authority to say it? And so we're right back to signing.
Right back to the same. I know it's a circle. Traditionally, the top of the Merkle has been the platform index. That's why. Not or a tag, right?
Sajay, I'm pushing for this notation solution to answer all these problems.
It's tricky.
It's tricky. I'm just saying, I see where Derek's coming from, right? And we could probably get Steve-O, and maybe he can.
We cornered him at DockerCon for the few minutes he had.
He did? Okay. Did he?
There was some hemming and hawing in there. He had two people like presenting very good cases, and he was like, "Yeah, you're both right," kind of.
You're both right. That's my point.
I'm
I agree. That's my point. You're both right. That's why I want it to be two patterns. If you go pattern one, it must be this. If you go pattern two, right, it should be this.
I'm still for a transaction API. I'm here for the long run, right? So I'm hoping that we get the transaction API in at some point.
I don't disagree. All we have to do is modify every registry to make that a must. If it's a May, then it's fine. Add it.
Well, there's nothing to modify on 1.0 registries today to make it a must, because that just works as is. They're not even parsing the subject field. They don't know that it needs to be done.
Right.
There's stuff they're potentially adding to the 1.1 if they wanted to make it a may/should. So we still have the say right now to make that decision.
Yeah.
And then if there's concerns about that, then adding in a transactional API gives them the opportunity to say, okay, this is where we're going to enforce it. So
good plan. That's a good plan.
I think we've got a path forward that we're not cornered in any one answer just yet, but we're getting really close if we don't solve this soon.
Yeah, just somebody will come up with another problem that needs to be solved. Yeah.
Speaking of the Thursday meeting, I will not be here this Thursday. I'm actually presenting on how to do refers at All Day DevOps. So I'll miss the fun, but my own take on this one is that I don't think we have enough of an opinion to change what we've got in there. The votes are coming out looking like they're favoring the client view, but not strongly. So I would say leave the spec as is, and let's try to get a release out and then work on the transactional API as soon as possible. That's my own personal opinion.
I'll definitely put in as much effort needed for the transactional API. I know it's going to take time, but it took 2 years to get to one API that we wanted to add. So yeah, let's kind of like just keep pushing.
One more time, EJBs. Oh wait.
Oh God.
That's basically what you're saying. I want a web service, HTTP transaction. Oh
my God, I'm Corba.
I'm just saying, but we've been here before.
Yeah, Corba flashbacks. Yes.
Yeah, but this is the first time OCI is leading, right? So in the following, so there is that pattern.
Yep. Yeah.
It's very awkward watching a design by committee trying to lead, because it's like, who's in front of all this like group of people all trying to go slightly different directions. Yeah.
It's open source.
It is a very different model of leading.
And in the good old days, we resolved these a lot faster by having get-togethers specifically for OCI.
Right.
You might need to do that. Right.
They've been putting him at like
assumed world now, but it was better, I think.
They've been putting him at the KubeCon. They've been co-hosting him there. A little bit of Open Source Summit.
Twice a year.
Events.
Once in the EU,
once or twice.
In the US. Yeah.
Nothing dedicated. It'll be fun to do like some kind of local get together just for OCI at some point, but that's hard.
You got to see the players. Somebody like Microsoft would host it one time, Docker the next, right? Google, whatever. You get different hosts, and they become more involved. That's why it went well. It was really necessary to get Run C out. Ain't no chance we would have got Run C done without that.
I don't have anybody forking the travel budget going forward, so that would add to a little bit of extra complication.
Yeah, travel's issue. It was an issue back then too, but not as bad. I'm talking pre-COVID era.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah.
Right.
All right. Yeah. Good.
All right, Sajay. I asked if you wanted to end early. You seemed kind of quasi-excited, and then
I think
I was into the 307 discussion.
Yeah. JP. Sorry, Sajay.
No, I dug my own grave here with the 307, so I'm fine.
Yeah, that was a good conversation. Thanks.
Right. All right. Okay. Till next time.
I like Brandon's idea on, because we're using common code here. Yeah. This would be a nice place, an injection place to do additional authentication checks and some test cases for the OCI side.
Yep.
Just use the same code, the same block, the same resolver, put together something for some test runs on Auth. That would make a lot of sense. And this would be especially since we're using common code. We had to. It's HTTP. All right. You guys know what's going on. Thanks, Ben. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Oh, hey, Brandon. Where did you land? Did you announce? No.
I haven't announced yet. Okay. So I'd only DM'd you that one, but retiring. So not going anywhere.
No. That's
yeah.
I know you're temporary retire.
It's it's going to be for a fair long while, unless I want to do a little bit of side consulting just because I'm bored.
Yeah, I agree, man. I did that once. Make a run, man. No, it was really cool. I had my own software company back in Boca Raton, 12 people working for me. It was a lot of fun.
I went the employed, independent, re-employed, now retired. Who knows? Maybe come back like old side projects here and there. But
maybe talk to Chris Hanks on some contracting.
There you go.
All right, man.
All right. Till next time.
Cheers.